Fewer than 2% of British homes have air conditioning. In new builds, it is now effectively banned. The rest of the developed world cools down, but Britain chose a very different path, and the reasons go far deeper than just the weather. British homes were built on the belief that summers would always be gentle and short. For generations, comfort meant opening a window to catch a breeze, not flipping a switch to cool the air. Builders focused on keeping homes warm in winter, with thick walls and small windows designed to trap heat. Natural ventilation, letting in fresh air, became a kind of national habit, shaping everything from window styles to daily routines. Air conditioning never became part of the plan. Even today, most houses are designed around heating, not cooling, and the idea of installing air conditioning seems out of place. But as heat waves last longer and temperatures climb higher, these old assumptions are starting to crack. New building rules now go so far as to ban fixed air conditioning in most new homes, locking in a standard that feels out of step with the reality outside. Air conditioning arrived in British homes much later than in other wealthy countries. In the late 1970s, the first domestic units appeared, but only in the homes of the wealthy or those chasing the latest gadgets. For most people, the idea of cooling the house with a machine felt unnecessary, even a bit extravagant. Through the 1980s and the 1990s, less than 1% of British households installed air conditioning. The numbers barely moved, even as summers grew warmer. By 2005, annual sales reached 45,000 units, but that was still a drop in the ocean compared to the millions of homes across the country. By 2020, sales had climbed to 120,000 units a year, yet air conditioning remained in fewer than 2% of homes. British summers were still seen as something you put up with, not something you fixed with technology. Even now, in most new homes, fixed air conditioning is banned outright by building regulations. In December 2021, the government published a new rule that would change the way homes are built across England. Approved Document L1A, the official guide for energy and fuel conservation in new houses, was amended with a clause that made fixed air conditioning almost impossible to install in most new homes. The rule came into force in April 2022. From that point on, anyone building a new house had to prove a low-carbon reason for including a split system or ducted air conditioning. Without a strong justification, usually limited to special cases like assisted living facilities or demonstration projects, fixed air conditioning simply could not be part of the design. The restriction did not apply to offices or shops. It applied only to new residential dwellings. Behind the scenes, the building regulation system and the Ministry for Housing, Communities, and Local Government acted as the gatekeepers, turning Britain's old cooling habits into official policy. The amendment was presented as a step toward net zero carbon targets, but for most people, it meant that air conditioning in new homes was now off limits by law. Arguments over the air conditioning ban quickly turned technical and heated. Government modeling from the Department for Business, Energy, and Industrial Strategy projected that if split-system air conditioning became common in homes, it would add about 12 terawatt-hours to residential electricity demand each year, enough to strain the grid and threaten net zero targets. Engineering bodies like CIBSE and the Institution of Mechanical Engineers pushed back, warning that the risk of overheating in airtight, super-insulated homes was being underestimated. Modern heat pump air conditioning units can now reach a coefficient of performance around 4.5, delivering more cooling per unit of electricity than ever before, but the rules still treat all fixed air conditioning as a last resort. House builders responded by doubling down on fabric-first measures, thicker insulation, improved glazing, and passive ventilation, all designed to keep homes cool without mechanical help. The largest developers estimated these changes would add about £4,500 per dwelling, a cost they argued was necessary to comply. Meanwhile, engineers called for a hybrid approach, combining efficient air conditioning with passive design rather than a blanket ban. The result is a standoff, government logic, engineering critics, and an industry adapting around a rule that has turned the question of how to cool British homes into a national debate. Heat waves are no longer rare events in Britain. They now arrive with growing force and frequency. In the summer of 2022, NHS England recorded 28,000 extra emergency admissions tied to heat stroke, dehydration, and heart problems. Hospitals struggled to cope as more people, especially the elderly, fell ill from overheated homes. The pressure has not let up. Research describes 2024 as especially severe, with repeated heat episodes pushing the health system to its limits. The absence of air conditioning in most British homes and the outright ban on fixed air conditioning in new builds has turned summer heat from a discomfort into a national health concern. Older Britons face the greatest risk from heat trapped indoors, especially those living in high-rise flats or homes with poor ventilation. Without air conditioning, and with fixed air conditioning now banned in new builds, the most vulnerable are left to cope with rising temperatures, using only fans or open windows. Britain lags behind Germany and the Netherlands in home cooling, exposing a wider problem, adapting all housing to new climate realities, not just searching for a single solution. Subscribe for more stories that question the rules shaping our everyday lives. Britain stands nearly alone. Air conditioning remains rare, and new homes cannot install it by law. As summers grow hotter, comfort and policy collide. The real heat is in the choices ahead. Subscribe for more.